In this second chance at life, I have neither sought to recognize my kin at the Huayan Wangfu nor sought out my former husband, Gu Yuanshan, hailing from a prestigious background. In this lifetime, having been deemed insufficiently refined by my father and having relinquished the pursuit of wealth and splendor, I have also decided against retaining the husband with whom I once shared affection, yet endured years of resentment. I tend to the modest pastry shop bequeathed to me by my mother and have arranged a marriage with a scholar from the neighboring household. However, no one informed me that they too had been reborn. The young lord, after marrying a noblewoman, finds himself reminiscing about my gentle demeanor. Once the Huayan prince finds tranquility, he yearns for the tea I brewed and the pastries I crafted. As I prepare to wed the scholar, they finally descend into a state of panic. Upon awakening, I found my maid, Tsueyu, diligently preparing the parcels for our journey to Huaizhou City. With meticulous care, she arranged each item, especially the rather heavy Longwei inkstone, which she wrapped in several layers as it served as a significant token for the reunion. The heat of the day caused her to break into a sweat, and upon noticing my awakening, Tsueyu approached me with a smile. "Miss, everything is nearly packed. Master Chen, who is purchasing the house, will be arriving soon. Shall we set off today or wait until tomorrow?" She had never ventured far from home, and her excitement for this journey to seek out family was palpable, as it promised to broaden her horizons. I shook my head and lazily reclined back onto my bed, responding, "Go ahead and inform Master Chen that we shall not sell the house, and we will not be leaving." Tsui was taken aback. "Why not? Miss, do you not wish to acknowledge your father? He is none other than the Duke of Huayan, a brother of the Emperor." Yet, I found myself disinterested in the prospect of recognition. Mama Lu has inquired on my behalf. The Duke's residence is far from Huaizhou City, and there are 9 princesses within the palace. My absence would hardly be noticed by the Duke. Although disappointed, Tsueyu respected my decision. "Then I shall decline Master Chen's offer." This echoed the words of Mama Lu in my past life, who kindly advised me to cherish our home and assets. She warned that with so many princesses in the Duke's palace, the Duke might not value a daughter raised in the countryside like me, and the journey was fraught with dangers such as bandits. 2 young women like Tsueyu and I might not safely reach Huaizhou City, and even if we did, encountering the current Duke was uncertain. Regrettably, I had ignored her counsel in my previous life. We indeed faced bandits along the way, losing all our gold and silver, and the hardships of travel left us with lingering ailments that would torment me in later years. Furthermore, due to our encounter with robbers, my future in-laws, the Marquis of Wuan and his wife, would always suspect I had lost my virtue on the journey, deeming me unworthy of their esteemed son, often subjecting me to their disdain. Without the journey to Huaizhou City, I would likely never cross paths again with Gu Yuanshan, the heir of the Marquis of Wuan, who had once been my beloved. Our relationship had evolved from acquaintance to love, only to sour into mutual disdain. The pain of love was profound, and the bitterness of hatred was equally intense. Without my presence, he would continue as the cherished heir, destined to marry a well-matched noblewoman, free to take concubines and father children without the constraints of devotion that had once bound him. As for my father, the Duke of Huayan, if he had forgotten his fleeting romance with my mother, he would surely forget me as well. Without me, the unremarkable daughter, he would no longer have to fret over the trouble I might cause or feel ashamed of my existence, for he had plenty of daughters to spare.
Mama Liu.
My wet nurse, now aged, had originally planned to resign and return to her countryside home upon our journey to Huaizhou City. Seeing that I would remain, she decided to stay, taking my hand and earnestly advising, "Miss, Huaizhou City is a treacherous place. Best to stay in Yuzhou where you are familiar with the surroundings, surrounded by acquaintances who can look after you, especially for the sake of your grandfather and mother." In my past life, I had been fixated on becoming a princess in Huaizhou City, dismissing such advice. Now I understood that what suited me best was to remain here, for I was no princess, but rather a lady of my own household. I nodded, affirming from now on, I shall content myself at home and cease to dwell on unattainable aspirations. We owned several pastry shops, which had been declining in business, and I had planned to sell them. However, my perspective had shifted. After a year in the palace and 3 years at the Marquis of Wuan's residence, I had honed my pastry-making skills, and under the guidance of the royal chefs, my confections had improved remarkably. Unfortunately, Gu Yuanshan did not have a taste for sweets, and my talents went unnoticed in the Marquis' household. Now, with my pastry shop still operational, I resolved to utilize my skills to revitalize the business. Within 3 days, I had crafted several innovative pastries, including red date milk crisps and osmantha sugar buns. After sprucing up the shop and inviting a renowned local scholar to inscribe a sign, our grand reopening was a resounding success, with fresh pastries selling out swiftly due to their novelty. 2 months later, while kneading dough in the back kitchen, a young attendant from the shop came to me with news. A gentleman has specifically requested our Jean Rousseau pastry and is willing to pay a silver tael for it.
Jean Rousseau.
Was that not a delicacy I had created only after marrying into the Marquis' household? Could it be that an old acquaintance like me had also been reborn? I hastily inquired. Is the gentleman still here? The gentleman is still here. I perceived him to be a valued guest, so I offered him a pot of tea while he waits, the attendant replied. I discreetly lifted the curtain to glance outside and confirmed it was indeed an old acquaintance, Gu Bowen, Gu Yuanshan's younger brother. I would ascertain whether he had experienced rebirth as well. I approached him, veiled and smiling, and said, "Our shop does not carry that particular pastry, as it is unfamiliar to us. However, we do offer a variety of exquisite confections. Would you care for a selection?" I treated him as a regular customer. Gu Bowen held great respect for his brother Gu Yuanshan, who had fought valiantly in the past to protect him. He was the only one in the Marquis' household who had ever shown me any respect, though he had met an untimely death before I wed his brother. Gu Bowen evidently had not been reborn. He did not recognize me, perceiving me as merely the shopkeeper. He replied that pastry was specifically requested by my brother, who heard I would be passing through here. If you do not have it, then so be it.
How much for the tea?
I declined to accept his payment, saying, "It is merely tea, of no great value." As he turned to leave, I prepared to return to the kitchen, but Gu Bowen hesitated and said, "In that case, please pack 3 boxes of assorted pastries for me. Since my brother wishes for something from here, I trust anything you offer will suffice." I nodded and asked, "Do you have any dietary restrictions?" Gu Bowen pondered for a moment and replied, "My parents enjoy anything I bring home. My brother dislikes overly sweet foods, so perhaps a box of lighter pastries would be best. As for what my soon-to-be sister-in-law likes, I am uncertain. You may decide." Gu Yuanshan was to be married? To whom? My curiosity piqued. "Is there a celebration in your family?" "Congratulations. May they enjoy a long and happy life together." Gu Bowen responded, "Thank you, esteemed shopkeeper. My future sister-in-law is well matched with my brother, and I believe they will indeed enjoy a long and happy life." After exchanging pleasantries, he departed with the elegantly packaged pastries, rewarding me with 10 silver taels, a sum sufficient for our shop's earnings for an entire month. It seemed the one who had been reborn was none other than my past husband, Gu Yuanshan, who, like me, had chosen a different path in this new life. While I opted to remain in Yuzhou, he followed his parents' wishes to marry a noblewoman, and we were both altering the trajectories of our previous lives, unwilling to retrace our steps. Upon returning home, I said to Mama Lu, "I am no longer a child. It is time I considered marriage. Everything is negotiable, but one condition remains. I must be allowed to continue managing these pastry shops after marriage." I was blessed with beauty, and 2 years prior, suitors had flocked to our doorstep. However, I had continually declined, citing my youth as an excuse. Having come to a realization, Lu Mama was particularly elated. "I shall spread the word tomorrow, my dear, and diligently seek out a suitable match for you, ensuring that you find a worthy husband." Despite my efforts, I had yet to encounter anyone particularly fitting. Most suitors were either scheming to lay claim to my family's fortune, desiring to have me focus on domestic duties while they managed my inheritance, or older, affluent gentry who, seeing me as a solitary woman, wished to take me as a concubine. Given the difficulty of finding a suitable partner, I resolved to embrace the life of a spinster, dedicating my days to running my pastry shop. My compassion for the nearby destitute children ensured that no one dared to cause trouble within my establishment. They would stand up for me whenever I faced bullying. Then, a new academy opened next door, and the teacher, Li Mingyu, became quite fond of my pastries, visiting daily to purchase a few pieces. A rather bashful man, he would turn crimson upon encountering me, stumbling over his words despite being quite eloquent otherwise. He had learned of my fondness for poetry and art books, and would gather interesting collections, carefully entrusting them to Lu Mama's little grandson to pass on to me, fearing that presenting them himself might tarnish my reputation. Initially, I declined his offerings, but he insisted that they were merely trifles meant to amuse me. Over time, I acquiesced, allowing Lu Mama to accept them on my behalf, occasionally indulging in them during my leisure moments. Lu Mama remarked, "The pastries are but a minor detail. He comes daily not for the confections, but for you." Mississippi Li Mingyu was handsome and charming, hailing from a family of kind and sociable individuals, with several acres of land and a tavern. While not an exceptionally wealthy family in Yu Prefecture, they were comfortably well off, making them a suitable match for me. Yet, I harbored doubts. Would he, like Gu Yuanshan, grow distant and resentful after marriage? This uncertainty made me hesitant to respond readily. One day, the local gentry, Lord Lu, arrived with a matchmaker and a dowry, boldly declaring his intent to take me as a concubine, disregarding my consent as he attempted to leave. I quickly blocked his path. "Wait. I do not consent to this, and I shall not accept this dowry." Lord Lu leered at me, chuckling. "Your refusal is irrelevant. I have set my sights on you." The onlookers, fearful of his connections with the authorities, dared not voice their objections, whispering among themselves. However, Li Mingyu promptly gathered his students and rushed to my defense, pointing at Lord Lu and declaring, "In broad daylight, you seek to forcefully claim a maiden? Is there no law to protect her?" Realizing that the county magistrate's son and several gentry's offspring were now his students, Lord Lu tempered his approach, stating, "I merely wish to take in Miss Yi, seeing her all alone. How can that be considered abduction?" Li Mingyu stood unyielding. "Miss Yi is perfectly well. Why should she become your concubine? Have you even asked her if she consents?" Lord Lu retorted, "She is nearly 18 and still unmarried. Is she not waiting for me? If she does not marry me, will she marry you?" His audacity was astounding. Li Mingyu, his chest heaving with indignation, remained protective in front of me. "Do not fear, miss. With me here, I shall not allow him to bully you." In that moment, feeling the courage he was willing to risk for my sake, I suddenly felt resolute. Standing behind him, I declared, "Li Mingyu, I will marry you. Do not forsake me." Li Mingyu turned with astonished joy, cautiously asking, "Really?" It felt as though a dream had come true. The woman he longed for, Yi Tan, had willingly agreed to become his bride.
He vowed,
"I shall never betray you in this life." This promise echoed the words once spoken by Gu Yuanshan, yet he ultimately broke his word.
"Now."
I cared not for past declarations, but rather for actions taken. After we exchanged marriage tokens and solidified our engagement, the young men who occasionally peered into my pastry shop diminished significantly as word spread that I was to wed the esteemed teacher, Li Mingyu. On the day Gu Bowen returned to Huai Prefecture, he dispatched pastries and luggage to his residence before hastily heading to the royal palace without even changing his clothes. Upon hearing his report, the Prince of Huayan nodded in satisfaction, his thoughts drifting to me as he recalled his journey through Yu Prefecture. In my past life, I had been en route to Huai Prefecture in search of family, uncertain whether Gu Bowen had encountered me, or if, like before, I had faced numerous hardships along the way, beset by mountain bandits and thieves. Reflecting on this, the prince casually inquired, "During your time in Yu Prefecture, did you hear of a young lady with the surname Yi? I hear her family has operated several pastry shops, with delightful confections." It was not merely a matter of pastries. He found himself nostalgically recalling that daughter from humble origins who, among his many daughters, had been the most patient and enduring. She crafted exquisite pastries and brewed exceptionally sweet tea. After Yi Tan had led the Gu family's heir away from Huai Prefecture back to the common folk, he had never again tasted such sweet tea nor experienced the warmth of a daughter solely devoted to his well-being, who would sew him shoes and attend to his needs. While he had no shortage of other daughters, those noble ladies raised in luxury were bound by decorum, their actions always measured and calculated, too intimidated to approach him. In his twilight years, he had witnessed treachery among his own. The youngest daughter conspired to poison him for her brother's gain, while another sought to curry favor with the fifth son by poisoning his medicinal meals. Yet, there was only her, Yi Tan, who had come to Huai Prefecture solely to reconnect with family. He had deliberately placed her in the most remote and modest quarters, and she had never complained. Whenever she received even the slightest token of appreciation, she would come to express her gratitude, calling him father with genuine appreciation. Noticing the prince's interest in matters from Yu Prefecture, Gu Bowen mentioned me. While in Yu Prefecture, I visited a pastry shop run by a young woman. I'm uncertain if her surname was Yi. The pastries there were quite exquisite, and I even brought back 3 boxes, which are presently in my residence. Would your highness care to sample them? The prince's interest piqued. What was her height? What did she look like? How old might she be? Though Gu Bowen was somewhat taken aback, he answered candidly. She appeared to be around 17 or 18, not particularly tall, slender and veiled. Making it difficult to discern her features, she spoke softly. Upon hearing this, the prince felt a surge of hope that it might indeed be me. He ordered, "Send a box of pastries to the palace. I wish to taste the flavors of Yu Prefecture." After a moment of thought, he added, regarding this young lady, "Do not disclose anything to anyone." Though Gu Bowen did not understand the reasoning behind this directive, he complied without question. After Gu Bowen departed, the prince pondered my delayed arrival in Huai Prefecture and instructed his servants to investigate. He further decided, once she arrives in Huai Prefecture, discreetly place her in the Western Mountain Villa. There is no need to make a public spectacle of her entrance into the palace. A fallen princess should not become the subject of public gossip. The prince considered that after our eventual reunion at the villa, he would bestow upon me the title of adopted daughter, allowing me to reside outside the palace to avoid inciting the displeasure of the princess and the dowager. When he longed for his daughter, he could visit, enjoying the joys of familial bonds. In any case, this daughter has always been well-behaved and considerate, never one to quarrel or compete, so she would likely have no objections to this situation. Gu Yuanshan gazed at the box of pastries on the table, feeling a profound sense of familiarity. The silk wrapping was embroidered with the characters Tanji, with Tan being her name. Upon opening the wooden box within, he discovered an exquisite assortment of pastries, each uniquely shaped and vividly colored, emanating a delightful fragrance. These were crafted by her hand, and he recognized them instantly.
So,
in this lifetime, Yiten chose not to come but instead remained in Yuzhou to open a pastry shop. He had casually mentioned pastries once, and while his brother could not find them, he fortuitously encountered Yi Tan, who had made these delicacies herself. Gu Yuanshan thought it was for the best. She did not come to Huai Prefecture, sparing him from any further entanglements with her. He slightly pushed the pastries away and instructed the servant, "They are merely mediocre. Let the maids and servants in the courtyard divide them among themselves." Just as the servant was about to comply, the newly arrived young lady of the house, Lady Song Lianshu, pushed the door open. She took a keen interest in the delicate pastries that were about to be taken away, since they were brought back from afar by my second brother. How could we waste his thoughtful gesture? "Allow me to sample them." Lady Song Lianshu casually picked up a pastry and took a bite, her brow furrowing slightly. This particular pastry is quite peculiar. It has the scent of osmanthus, but lacks the osmanthus filling. The essence of an osmanthus pastry to savor that hint of bitterness? While others might not understand, Gu Yuanshan did. She favored the fragrance of osmanthus, but detested the bitter filling. Thus, in his previous life, when he prepared osmanthus pastries, he habitually used only the fragrant essence, avoiding the filling altogether, a labor-intensive method that he found immensely satisfying. Gu Yuanshan reflected, it seemed he too had been reborn, retaining the memories of his past life. He tore a small piece from the half-eaten pastry left by Lady Song Lianshu and, upon tasting it, felt an unexpected surge of emotion, nearly moved to tears by the overwhelming familiarity of the flavor. So familiar that, upon closing his eyes, he could vividly envision her sitting alone in the courtyard, crafting pastries. Since he had never cared for them and found her street vending to be a source of embarrassment, she confined herself to making pastries at home, discarding them when no one ate them, a cycle of self-torment. With this thought, Gu Yuanshan felt a pang of guilt and turned to leave, seeking solitude for a while. To be fair, it was he who had suggested retreating to the countryside, yet he had ultimately directed all his grievances towards her, leaving her utterly innocent. She had once lived a life of affluence and comfort, but for his sake, she had forsaken it, only to receive his reproaches and complaints in return. Upon encountering Gu Bowen, he could not help but inquire, "Have you ever met a woman named Yi Tan?" Gu Bowen was taken aback. What was happening today? The Prince of Huayan was asking about Yi Tan, and even his brother had inquired about her. Who was this Yi Tan? A figure so far away that she stirred such curiosity? Nevertheless, since his brother had asked, Gu Bowen responded, I believe I have encountered her. She is a gentle-spoken young lady. After Gu Bowen departed, Gu Yuanshan promptly dispatched a horseman to Yuzhou to inquire about her recent circumstances, feeling an inexplicable sense of unease. Despite the trajectory of his past life having altered, she had not come to Huai Prefecture, and he had married a noblewoman of high standing. A wife who was both virtuous and gracious, visiting his mother daily for morning and evening rituals, and even expressing a desire to take a concubine, he still felt an emptiness within. Once their marriage was settled, he visited the family of Li Mingyu. Upon seeing him, Li's mother immediately removed a silver bracelet from her wrist and placed it on his hand. Good young man, henceforth consider us your own parents. Li's father was equally pleased, acknowledging that although he was an orphan, his background was commendable. In terms of appearance, it could be said that his son had married a girl of higher status, and he presented Gu Yuanshan with a token of their first meeting. In his previous life, when he first met Gu Yuanshan's parents, he had not yet been conferred the title of princess, merely a homeless orphan. Gu Yuanshan, seeing his talent and pitying his plight, had privately pledged a lifelong commitment before bringing him home. Thus, no matter how diligently he endeavored to please, the Liu family still held disdain for him. He had thought that once he entered the estate and was granted the title of princess, things would improve. However, the reality was that in the hearts of Liu's father and mother, he remained that inconsequential orphan, and after marriage, they continued to criticize and mock him without pause. With these thoughts in mind, he yearned even more to lead a peaceful life with Li Mingyu. Each day, aside from making pastries, he spent most of his time engaging in needlework. While the bridal gown was to be crafted by a seamstress, Li Mingyu's shoes had worn out. So he resolved to create a few pairs of new shoes and socks for him before the wedding, as a modest expression of his affection as a fiancé. He worked painstakingly, ensuring each step was executed with utmost precision, taking 10 days to complete a single pair. When Li Mingyu saw them, he was thoroughly delighted but hesitated to wear them, saying, These shoes were made by you, Tana. I shall wait until our wedding day to wear them, so that everyone may envy me for having such a wonderful wife. In his previous life, he had crafted many shoes and socks for the king and Gu Yuanshan, yet they always insisted that such tasks were best left to the servants, that he, as a master, had no need to concern himself with trivial matters. Ultimately, even if they were his father and husband, deep down, they held him in contempt, viewing him as petty. However, Li Mingyu was different. He cherished Gu Yuanshan's efforts and regarded him as an equal, never looking down upon him. He often took Gu Yuanshan on outings to enjoy the outdoors, holding hands without perceiving it as an inappropriate act. His family was also far more amiable than Gu Yuanshan's, never imposing the expectations of elders upon him, nor threatening him with imprisonment, treating him instead like their own daughter, sending him gifts of good fortune. Soon, the wedding date approached. Your Highness, the lady has not come to Huai Prefecture. She has opened a shop in Yuzhou and is said to be marrying soon, the scout reported, summarizing the latest news about him. She is to marry a poor scholar. I had already selected a suitable candidate for her, and the estate in Beiyuan has been prepared. The Prince of Huayan responded, his brow furrowing slightly upon hearing the scout's report. Gu Yuanshan was getting married. There were many noble heirs in this world, and the prince felt confident that when she arrived in Huai Prefecture, he would treat her well. The prince's frown deepened. How is it that Yi Tan's situation in this life diverged so greatly from the last? She had not come to Huai Prefecture in search of kin, but remained in Yuzhou. Had she too been reborn, abandoning her father, Gu Yuanshan, and even the esteemed title of princess? In that moment, he realized he was gradually losing his daughter. Prepare a discreet carriage. I must go to Yuzhou at once. The Prince of Huayan thought, his heart racing with anxiety. He needed to personally bring her back. She was still his daughter, the sole child of the woman he once cherished most. Your Highness, I request to accompany you. Gu Yuanshan, waiting outside, happened to overhear the conversation and learned of her impending marriage, igniting a sense of urgency within him. Only then did he realize that the person he had once deemed unworthy in his past life remained the most significant figure in his heart. The thought of her calling another husband and resting her head upon someone else's shoulder drove him to the brink of madness with jealousy. He was determined to prevent her marriage and bring her back, no matter the cost. Gu Darren, you too? The Prince of Huayan glanced at him and immediately understood that he too, had been reborn. The prince was aware of their past connection and gave his shoulder a reassuring pat, saying, "Then let us go together." That evening, they took a carriage to Yuzhou, a journey of 1,000 miles, which took them 5 or 6 days. As anxiety grew within their hearts, they switched to swift steeds, galloping towards Yuzhou, fervently hoping to arrive before my wedding. Tanner, as I exited the tan establishment, preparing to return home, a familiar voice suddenly called out to me. I turned slightly, incredulous, as two figures emerged before me, my father and Gu Yuanshan. It was my father who spoke. How had they come to Yuzhou? In this new life, encountering these two felt like the unresolved grievances of a past life. I had not sought them out, nor had I pledged my heart to Gu Yuanshan. We were now mere strangers. This esteemed uncle, we must be meeting for the first time. Please address me as Lady Li or Miss Yi. Tanner is merely my given name, and you are overstepping, I replied, nodding slightly to my father, regarding him with the same indifference I would a passerby, my tone cold. Tanner, I am your father. You are my daughter. Have you forgotten the events of our previous life? The Prince of Huayan exclaimed, gripping my shoulders with fervor, as if fearing I might vanish at any moment. Father? Pray, what jest is this? I have been without a father since my youth. My mother passed away early, and I am but an orphan. Do not speak such unfounded claims, I retorted, gently pushing him away, intending to board my carriage. I truly am your father. You are the lost princess of this kingdom. The prince insisted, producing a gold medallion as proof of his identity, his eyes glistening with emotion as he gazed at me. The bystanders immediately knelt, and I followed suit, yet my expression remained impassive. I pay my respects to your highness, but it seems you are mistaken. I am truly no princess. I prostrated myself on the ground, humble and unassuming, devoid of any resentment. In my previous life, I had gone to great lengths to prove my noble status, presenting tokens and recounting my mother's tale, ultimately gaining his acknowledgement. This time, however, I chose not to recognize him, and he had come seeking me instead. It was indeed peculiar. You are my daughter, the Prince of Huayan asserted, his voice trembling with emotion. In my former life, I had never spoken to him in such a manner. I had always been submissive, gazing at him with admiration. But this time, I no longer desired him as my father. How can you prove it? I inquired. I gifted your mother an inkstone named Long Wei Yen. It must still be in your home, he replied. My household possesses no such Long Wei Yen. You must be mistaken, your highness. I had pawned the inkstone just days prior, and as long as I feigned ignorance, the prince could not substantiate my claim to his lineage, for blood tests were unreliable. There is one. It is the betrothal token I gave your mother. Your highness may send someone to search my residence personally, I suggested, pointing in the direction of my mother's home, allowing them to rummage about. If they found it, I would concede. The prince indeed took people to search. Once he departed, I stood up alongside the common folk. I rubbed my sore legs. It had been a long while since I had knelt, and I felt quite unaccustomed. As I was about to leave, another voice called out to me.
Tanner.
It's me. I am Gu Yuanshan. Why do you wear your hair in a married woman style? He believed he had calculated the timing perfectly, hastening here on horseback, certain he would catch up, but it seemed I was already wed. Young master, tread carefully with your words. I am married now, hence the hairstyle befitting a woman of my status. What is wrong with that? To avoid further complications, I stepped back a couple of paces. In this life, I wish to sever any ties with him. You are married. Gu Yuanshan looked at me with a face full of sorrow. Indeed, I replied tersely. When did this happen? His countenance turned ashen. Just a few days ago. My husband treats me exceptionally well. I have heard you are already wed, so please keep your distance to avoid misunderstandings. I retreated several more steps, my demeanor defensive.
Tanner.
I was wrong. I shall return and divorce my wife. Now I realize in 2 lifetimes I have only loved you. Gu Yuanshan took a few steps forward, yearning to embrace me, but seeing my aloofness drove him nearly to madness. Please, your marital status is of no concern to me. I simply wish to live my life peacefully. Do not make things difficult, I said, bypassing him and moving toward Li Mingyu, who had come to escort me home. Husband, let us return. Li Mingyu cast a single glance at the richly attired Gu Yuanshan, then averted his gaze without further inquiry, wrapping his arm around me as we walked homeward. My mother has prepared lotus root chicken soup for us, and my father made your favorite dompa pork. I also bought some bayberries from the outskirts of the city. I thought you would enjoy them. Gu Yuanshan watched our affectionate retreat, feeling as though 1,000 arrows pierced his heart. The current outcome was solely his doing. He had chosen this path. In his rebirth, he had ample time to seek me out in Yuzhou, to plead for my forgiveness, or to escort me back to Huayan to reunite with my family.
But he chose not to.
Instead, he married a noble lady, believing it the most prudent choice for a better life. Yet he still longed for me to come to Huayan to find my kin, to meet him again. It was only at this juncture that he comprehended my significance in his life. His joy stemmed from me, and his sorrow was also due to me. Yet only I could penetrate his heart. Without me, he felt like a mere shell of a man. Though we both had been reborn, he had still lost me. Dejected, Gu Yuanshan departed Yuzhou, and upon returning to Huayan, he could no longer endure the constraints of protocol and the treachery of court politics, resigning from his post. In this life, devoid of my manipulative influence, he still abandoned the Marquis' estate, leaving behind a wife already with child, and sought solace in the Jiangnan courtyard where we once resided. Yet this time, it was bereft of me and our children, leaving him alone, destined to live in solitude, eternally ensnared in regret. He was a man who desired everything, yearning for a life of grandeur while simultaneously coveting freedom and love. In the end, he grasped at nothing, his aspirations dissolving into thin air. As for the Prince of Huayan, he could find no concrete evidence of my identity as his daughter. And since I refused to meet him, he returned home disheartened. He resumed his role as the Prince of Huayan, consoling himself that my absence merely meant one less daughter. He still had many others, and with his wealth spanning the seas, life must come with its share of regrets. Yet every mid-autumn festival, he found himself longing for the mooncakes I had once made with my own hands. The past had become a fleeting memory, and I continued to run my pastry shop in Yuzhou, happily married to Li Mingyu. Eventually, we were blessed with a pair of children. Our daughter was delightful, and our son astute. Our lives were harmonious and prosperous, far surpassing the hardships of my previous existence. With such fulfilling days, I seldom thought of the Prince of Huayan or Gu Yuanshan. My focus remained on the happiness of my present life.
The end.
Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in the next story.